Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What has been the most terrifying moment of your life thus far? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I went snorkeling alone off the coast of Maui when I was 13 or 14. I got pulled out by a rip current so fast that I was at least 300 to 400 yards from where I started. I thought for sure I was going to drown, but I found my way back onto the beach. Early 2000s, my brother was serving in the Middle East. My dad, a former Marine, and I were on the porch when a USMC chaplain and Marine in his dress uniform pulled up in front of our house. My dad stood up and whispered, "No," and reached out for me to steady him as he started to lose his balance. Turns out the Marines were there to meet with my neighbor's son and didn't have the right address. They came to our house because my dad was flying a USMC flag. My dad very respectfully asked what the hell was wrong with them showing up at our house like that. TLDR. Marines showed up at the house. My dad thought they were there to tell him that my brother died. I have had a few moments that have been pretty terrifying, but the most terrifying moment of my life was when I was in a car accident. I was driving and another car ran a red light and hit us. It was a pretty bad accident and I was seriously injured. I was rushed to the hospital and had to have surgery. It was a very scary experience, and it is something that I will never forget. When I learned that my 1-year-old had cancer, she's now 16 months old and going through chemo treatments. We're hopeful for remission this year. I hope so. When I was 12 or 13, I went tubing with my friend's family. We were in an inflatable called Big Bertha. It was a tube that had a floor on the bottom so you could load people inside it together and get pulled by a boat. My friend and I were in the tube, and his dad was probably going around 30 miles per hour driving the boat. Somehow, I was sucked down between the bottom of the tube and the inflatable part, fully submerged underwater, while trapped in the latex flaps. My friend waved for his dad to stop, but he thought he was saying to speed up. I was trapped underwater for what felt like minutes. Last thing I remember was my lungs burning and then waking up on the boat. I witnessed my mother overdosing and nearly dying in my arms. In May of 2021, I came back from a night at my friend's house after having an argument with my mom, and I went into my room and she was face down on the ground mid-seizure with blood drooling from her mouth. I had just turned 17 and didn't know what to do because, of course, I've never seen anything like that before. I dropped down to the floor like I was in a movie or something, LOL, and tried to roll her on her side, but she was so stiff it was too difficult. At the time, she didn't have a phone and mine was broken. I was using my computer to communicate, so there was no way for me to contact 911. Luckily, I found a burner phone she had been using and frantically called an ambulance. I found out a couple of weeks later that if I had arrived just a minute or two later, she would have been dead. Absolutely terrifying, and I still think about it every single day. This next story could have ended very poorly, but we do like happy endings here too sometimes. This is a long one, so buckle up. About 10 years ago, I went on a cruise with 5 of my friends to Cozumel, drinking and partying the whole time. We get to Mexico, and there are buses for the cruise passengers to be transported to the excursions. There was this shady-looking man in a beat-up white van, and he says to us, "Come with me." I don't know what came over us to go with him, but we all crammed into this tiny little van. Right away, he went the opposite way of where the buses were heading, and we started to panic a bit. He then started driving through the super-duper ghetto, which started to freak us out a bit more. Then he pulls up to a completely dilapidated hotel right by the water. We all started really freaking out, saying to ourselves that we got caught up in a cartel and we were going to be executed. The man led us around the corner of the hotel and holy shit, he took us to the most badass beach resort I've ever seen. It was a hidden gem on the beach where no tourists were. He gave us free snorkel gear and told us to have fun. There was a full-service bar and we ate the best Mexican food we've ever had and drank the most delicious margaritas ever and lounged by the beach for a few hours, and then he came to pick us back up and took us to our favorite non-tourist restaurant. Amazing food and drinks there as well. We had the time of our lives. After dinner, he drove us right back to where the tourist buses were dropping off the passengers, and of course, we tipped him super fat. Amazing time, and to think it was because of a potentially very stupid drink decision. TLDR. thought we got kidnapped by the cartel, ended up at a secret resort, and had a blast. I have a fear of thunderstorms and will avoid as best I can to ever have to go outside during them, although if you ask me, I don't understand why everyone else isn't the same way, and some are so nonchalant about it. So, one night in college, I'm in the computer lab, and eventually it hits midnight and they close. Buses were done for the night too, so I had to walk 2 miles home, which was fine. I already knew that was going to happen, and I'd done it many times before. But I stupidly didn't check the forecast, and I'm only 1 block in when I see lightning up ahead and the sky and think, oh crap. Rain started not long after that, and then it was full-on thunderstorming and never let up. 30 minutes in the middle of that, just hoping that I didn't slip and fall or get hit with any of the random lightning bolts that flashed in front of me every 5 seconds. Not to mention I was constantly out of breath because I was trying to hurry home as quick as I could. But 2 miles is a long way, especially with a heavy backpack. Never again. I say that, but then I let the same thing happen again like a year later. Our next poster got very lucky. Good luck to him in his future commutes. Got robbed at gunpoint in a developing country, I won't say which one, and didn't have anything of value on me for exactly that reason. Street crime there was rampant. The guy went through my pockets, socks, down to the waistband, etc. Wasn't happy when he didn't find anything and pulled the trigger. Luckily for me, for whatever reason, his pistol didn't fire. I've never run so fast in my life, and I didn't think I was even capable of running that fast. Scary shit, man. Not the first time I'd been robbed at gunpoint either, but definitely the first time, and hopefully the last, an MFer literally tried to shoot me. In a whiteout in Wyoming at night on an unfamiliar road, I could not see even an inch in front of my car. I had no sense of where the boundaries were on the road. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely steer. I swear I drove on blind hope that I wasn't going to kill myself or get creamed by another car. After God knows how long, a motel with a neon sign appeared. I think I cried for an hour in my room with retroactive terror. I was 9 years old. I was rushing back and forth from a street, and my brother somehow wasn't in the car yet. I ran back without looking both ways, and a car was driving straight at me, and I froze. The car screech being a few inches from me. Life tip: look both ways, don't rush. Getting stuck in the middle of a storm on a wave runner. I was supposed to be followed by a boat in front of me to get back, and it kept fading in and out of view since I could barely see 10 feet in front of me. I'd lose it for what felt like minutes at a time, only to keep going and stumble upon it again. The rain felt like rocks, was freezing cold to the point where I could barely breathe, and kept washing sunscreen into my eyes, making me almost blind. The waves were huge, and I thought for sure I was going to capsize. I've been closer to actually dying a few times in my life, such as when my friend fell asleep at the wheel and almost drove us into an oncoming semi. But that was the only time where it felt like every second I was making the decision to keep fighting or not, which somehow made it worse. Utterly terrifying, and I still get panicked anytime there's severe rain, even in video games. To this poster, don't worry, you will find a better quality of friend down the road. My friends faked another friend's suicide over FaceTime and acted like they found her wrists cut up. A couple of my friends all got together for another friend's birthday party, however I couldn't go due to some other plans at the time. The birthday girl, let's call her Joyce, was a decent, good friend of mine, but I was really best friends with her cousin, let's call her Casey. Casey and I had been friends for maybe 2 years at this point as sophomores in high school, and I met Joyce through her. So they go to Joyce's b-day party, and I'm at home doing chores when I get a FaceTime from Casey. She's obviously been drinking and slurring her speech walking outside under streetlights with another friend. They are telling me how they'd lost Joyce because they were all drinking and playing in the woods next to Joyce's house. Next thing I know, Casey is screaming bloody murder, Joyce's name, then the camera flips and I see Joyce laying face down under a street lamp for a few brief seconds with blood on her and her wrists blood pooled out onto the ground. I completely went into shock, about to call the police and rush over there, but my mind all went blank at the same time. Then I heard Casey and the other friends laughing. Then Joyce gets up, all of them laughing hysterically. I just stared at my phone emotionless, then it clicked, and I realized it was all a cruel joke. I hung up not knowing what to do. I just dropped my phone, ran to my mother's room, and burst into tears, falling into her practically. She had no idea what was going on, and I was too in shock to form a proper sentence to explain. After a few minutes, I managed to collect myself enough to tell her what was going on. Needless to say, my mom called all their parents who were at the party, explaining how messed up it was because my older sister tried to commit suicide when I was younger due to being raped. I stayed with my mom the rest of the night, too scared to answer my phone, and I'm shocked my friends would pull such a cruel, horrible prank on me. After that, I greatly distanced myself from them. In all my 68 male years flying on airplanes for a career and time in the military, I've yet to experience anything so severe to qualify, though I have come close. What I do find terrifying is the current conditions of our socio-political situation, with extremist talk of taking up arms against our own and destroying the democracy so many of us serve to protect. The craziness coming out of our so-called leadership, both at state and federal levels, is equally as terrifying. The next 3 years will tell. I'm not sure I want to be here to witness it. When I was 9, I was downstairs and my sister was upstairs, so my house has a hallway leading to the kitchen, and you could see that hallway if you were in the living room. So I looked down the hallway and I saw a girl. She had black hair, and when I looked at her, she immediately jumped into the kitchen, which was out of view from me. My first thought was that was my sister, but when I thought about it, I thought my sister doesn't have black hair, and I would have heard her come down the stairs. So when I realized that, I was scared shitless. When my sister came downstairs, I asked her if she had come downstairs before that, and she said no. So I don't know what that was, and I never saw anything after that. I had a terrible asthma attack suddenly one night. My biggest fear was dying in front of my 2 sons waiting for the ambulance. I made it to the hospital, was intubated in the ICU, got nasoconical neuromy, and spent 3 weeks on induced coma, had a tracheotomy, spent almost 2 months at the hospital. Now I wonder if I would survive another one.